So this session today will have different sections, and these different sections will be delivered by my colleagues and by myself. And I also see that my colleagues who will not be delivering the sessions but are also part of the school are here. So I'm just going to introduce everyone to you. I hope all of you know me. If you don't, then I am Wang Ziping. And with me, we have got Dr. Chai Shin Yu. She's the coordinator of MA Education. We have Dr. Surya Anjit. We have Dr. Chu Shiwei. Oh, our newest addition in the school, we have Dr. Tiong Nidek, Dr. Sharimila Ambrose, Dr. Lena Go, and Dr. Rosalini. Not sure if Ros is convenient for you to turn on your camera. If not, it's fine. Okay. Yep. So in today's session, we will be taking you through what this dissertation is about, what you'll need to do if you're going to embark on your dissertation this end of this semester, and some tips for you to ace your dissertation. And we will also be hearing from students who have completed their dissertations and students who are currently completing their dissertations. So I hope this session will be useful to you in the end. And if you have questions, please ask us. Before we start, I would like to kind of know, which cohorts you are from. If you are students registered directly with the Malaysia campus and you registered with us before September 2023, so you didn't start with us last September, but before last September, would you mind raising your hands? Okay, we have Penny. Yep. Great, thank you so much. What about those who started, again, you registered directly with the Malaysia campus, but you started last September. So you had your first module in September 2023, and you are a full-time student. Would you mind raising your hands? Cool. Thank you. Do we have any students who registered last September? So you also started in September 2023, but you are a part-time student. Okay, thanks. And right, you can lower your hand. Maybe I will, yeah, I can do it for you. So what did I do? And then I would also like to know how many students are there who registered with us through NAA? Any 1, 2 right now? Okay, great. Thank you so much. An idea of how many we will be expecting this time. So without further ado, we will be starting our very first section. If you have got questions, feel free to type out your questions on the meeting chat, or you can ask us when we stop for the Q&A session, right? So let me invite Dr. Surya Anjit to begin our session. Over to you, Surya.
Thank you, Zipeng. Okay, I think everyone can hear me now. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Surya, and I think Dr. Zipeng, Dr. Wong has already introduced more or less what we're going to do today. And I'll be doing the introductory part. So basically, it's my job to welcome you to this stage and then to let you know a little bit, like all the sweet stuff, and then my colleagues, Dr. Shun Yu, Dr. Wong, and also Dr. Chu, with three of our amazing students, will be explaining in more detail. Actually, my part is more on introductory or introduction. Yeah, if we could move on to the next slide, thank you. All right, so welcome to the next stage. So basically, what we are doing today, we would like to introduce this module. It is a module, your dissertation module, and congratulations for for completing. Most of you, I believe, have either completed or now completing your final module already with us. So we would like to introduce this dissertation process or the stage, and then explain the registration process or protocol, and then also this ethics application process. And like Dr. Wong mentioned earlier, we will also be sharing some tips, and we will also be inviting three students to share their experiences, some tips that could help you ace your dissertation journey as well. And moving on. Okay, so I'm not planning to spend too much time on this slide in the interest of time. And also, I believe that, all of us or almost all of us here now know what a dissertation is. At least you know what it is now that you are here. So this is just a simple definition that we took from Cambridge Dictionary. So it's a long piece of writing, all right? It's long, but don't be discouraged. It understandable. It is understandable. It's long. And I'll be talking about how long we are looking for, or what is our requirement in terms of word length later on in the next slide. So basically, this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your ability to conduct independent research. So I like to repeat independent research. So a lot of the work that you'll be doing in your dissertation stage will be independent work, but of course you will be closely supported, and we will be working with you. Your supervisors will be working with you closely. And then this is where you could demonstrate how you would like to apply whatever knowledge that you have gained in your MA journey. And then all studies, no matter how small the study is, you are actually contributing to new knowledge generation as well. So maybe if it's just a case study, maybe the knowledge is limited to that particular context, but it is still valuable knowledge for that particular context that you are studying. For example, in a bigger scale study, of course, you are generating like knowledge on a bigger scale, but I always tell students, or my supervisors, that whatever new knowledge that you generate from your studies, it's always interesting and it's always valuable for that particular context. So this is also where you demonstrate your expertise. And of course, it's all about generating evidence. I think by now you know that everything needs to be supported. Whatever findings need to be supported with data. Whatever problems that you are trying to solve, those problems need to also be supported with evidence as well. And innovation, be creative, be innovative, and also your implications of the study to your research context as well. Yeah. So I guess this is quite straightforward. We can move on to the next one. If you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat or also ask us later in our Q&A session. Okay, these are just some key considerations. I believe most of you are already aware of this. Research process or the journey itself is very interesting, and sometimes you will find things that you never expect. In the beginning you don't expect to find such findings, but in the end you find interesting things that will actually be very valuable and interesting for your professional development as well. So however, all right, there are things that we need to consider when as researchers, when we conduct dissertation study or any studies. These are the key considerations that we need to we need to bear in mind. I know most of us are practitioners as well. We are teachers, we are in the classrooms, and we see all sorts of problems every day in our classrooms, right? And being a practitioner, all right, myself included, we tend to like, oh, this is a problem, right? I want to address this problem, so I want to work on this problem for my dissertation. This is good, but the way you address the problem, the way you investigate the problem, the way you generate evidence for the problem and for the solutions, for the findings, it has to be systematic. There should be a structure. It has to be ethical, and most importantly, I always highlight this. You have to really be careful with the rigor, your research rigor. In this context, all right, what I mean by rigor is the quality of being thorough or being systematic, so that you can establish trust in your research. Because research is not just about we wake up today, all right, okay, I want to do this, I want to do research on this, then today or tomorrow I will go and collect data. No, we want you to be very thorough about the methods that you are going to choose. Those methods or methodology need to be justified, and you also need to do enough readings, like background reading. Your literature review is really important. Don't just embark on a topic just because it's your interest. I think later on, Dr. Wong will elaborate on this further. And then transparency, of course, your reporting has to be transparent, and trustworthiness, reliability, and validity of your study. Those are also things that you need to consider when embarking on your dissertation stage. Yeah. All right. As you go along with your supervisor will guide you on this, definitely. But I would like to stress from now on, even when you are planning your topic, I believe now you either have your topic already or you are planning, you're researching. These are the things that you need to keep in mind, right? Okay, moving on. Okay, so here are the expectations, our expectations. Okay, so basically what we expect from you as you embark on this journey, as you are doing or completing your dissertation, we would like you to be aware of the dilemmas that you are trying to solve or the problems that you are trying to solve in your study. And also you need to be aware of the assumptions, the values, and of your professional practice. But I also would like to highlight here, not only for your professional practice in your context alone, if you're working in an institution, right, the assumptions and values in your institution alone is not enough. You also need to connect those with a wider body of literature. So like I mentioned just now, it's very important for us to balance our role as a practitioner and also a researcher at the same time, because oftentimes we meet students who are very passionate about something. They know their classrooms really well, they know their institutions really well, they know the problems in the institution really well, in their field really well, but they have not done enough literature review or enough background research before embarking on that journey. So then problem will come later on. Yeah, all right. So we would like to remind you that early on. So like I said earlier, this is some important information. Oh yeah, Dr. Rose just add there to enjoy the journey. All right, one more expectation. Yes, thank you, Dr. Rose. You're right. Okay. Am I too scary now with all my expectations? I hope not. Okay. So I don't want to scare you off. All right. It is an enjoyable journey. I will be very honest with you. Sometimes it could be quite stressful as well, but if you have asked students who have completed, they will definitely tell you that this is also an enjoyable journey. You are challenging yourself and you are also discovering new things, new knowledge as well. So enjoy the journey. Yeah. Okay. So all right, moving on. Okay, so this is the key information. We expect you to submit around 15,000 words. So I think if you're familiar with the system, we usually require like about plus minus 10% of 15,000. So the acceptable range would be between 13,500 to 16,500 words. So if you are within this range, you should be okay. And if it's too short, then we are worried that you might not be able to explain everything that you need to explain. So make sure that you are within this range. And then in terms of support, you are entitled to 3 tutorials or 3 meetings with your supervisor. as well as email support. So these 3 tutorials will be up to 3 hours in total. And then on top of that, you will be able to submit your chapter or any sections that you feel that you like your supervisor to read on, to comment on. So you can negotiate this with your supervisor. So do not expect your supervisor to read the whole dissertation and comment on the whole dissertation for you. But I'm pretty sure as you proceed with your journey, then your supervisor will be supporting you along the way. But in terms of feedback, we'll be giving feedback on one chapter or any section that you feel that you would like to focus on. So for the marking process, your dissertations will be marked by 2 tutors. One will be your supervisor, and there will be another marker as well. That will be your second marker. So moving on. Okay, who can begin their dissertation and when? All right, so we will have 2 groups of students. All right, the first group is the UNM-based students who are here. And then we also have NAA-based students. I think just now Dr. Wong surveyed a little bit, and they are NAA students here, right? So for UNM students, there will be one starting point, which is as you can see here in the first column, for UNM-based students, okay, today is your dissertation briefing. The same goes to NAA-based students as well. All right, so your proposal A submission date. If you're not sure what is proposal A, Dr. Shun Yu will explain what it is later on. All right, so the date for this proposal A will be 18th of March. That is the submission date. And then we will try to allocate your supervisor by the first week of April. And I believe you will start sometime early May, if I'm not mistaken. So Dr. Shun Yu will explain or will share the key dates in more detail shortly. All right, so for NAA students, there are 3 entry points or 3 starting points here. So you've got one in March for the proposal A submission, in March, 18th of March, and then August, 22nd of August. And then the last one will be 18th of March, 2025. So these are the 3 starting points for NAA-based students. And then for the first 2 starting points, you are having your dissertation briefing today. And then for the third starting point, the dissertation briefing will be held next year in January or February, I think, 2025. So yeah, so as soon as you assign your supervisor, once you have been contacted by the school and you've been informed who your supervisor is, please consult or please contact your supervisor straight away. So introduce yourself, and then let your supervisor know where you are at that point, and then you can start you can start the ball rolling from there. Okay, so I think the next one would be the process. I will not go into this in detail because Dr. Shun Yu will be explaining this further. So this is just the starting point. So getting started, at this point, I believe that you are planning your dissertation, looking for topics and all that, and probably you also want to look for potential supervisors as well. And then after that, you submit your module registration form and proposal A form. Dr. Shun Yu will discuss this, will explain this in a bit. And then after we've received your proposal A, we will assign you the supervisor. And then after that, your contact with supervisor may begin. And okay, so some of you may be wondering, how can I find my supervisor? How do I know which supervisor to work with? So I think you can, okay, if you click, all right, so yes, you can approach your supervisor, potential supervisor. You may not be getting that supervisor. All right, we will try our best to assign you the supervisor that you've requested, but you may not be getting the exact supervisor that you are requesting. So then you can indicate that in the proposal A, the first document that you submitted to us, you can indicate that. And how do you approach your potential supervisor? You could read up the research profile. There are like details about our contact details as well. You can email it to us, introduce yourself, and let us know what you are interested in, and then you can have discussion with us, with your potential supervisor there. And then, will the supervisor I approach be allocated to be my supervisor? Like I said earlier, this is we'll try our best, but it is up to the availability and also the expertise. Sometimes, what your research interests may not align with the expertise of that supervisor, so we may assign you to a different supervisor. And then we have compiled a list of projects or areas of interest of your prospective supervisors. I think Dr. Wong has shared this in the chat. You may look at the document shared in the chat, and then you can have a look. You can have an idea of which areas the supervisors are interested in, or the projects they are in. So you can you can look for your potential supervisor there as well. All right, I think that's about it. Oh, yes. Before I hand this session over to Dr. Shun Yu, okay, this is important. I know some students, they wait till the last minute during the submission to actually go and check this Moodle page, but I highly recommend everyone to actually check this Moodle page from early on, even today, if you have not done so. So this is the Moodle page for your dissertation module. So in this page, you will have every form, all the forms that you need, and also the processes that you need as well, that you need to understand. And Dr. Shun Yu will show, will demonstrate a little bit. We'll show the Moodle page later on in her presentation. So I think that's all from me now, I guess. Yep. Over to you, Shun Yu. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, nice. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen, so I won't be able to see all of you. So if you raise your hands, I won't be able to see that. So, but if you have got questions, you can unmute yourself. Right, so let me begin. So I'm Shun Yu, and I will be sharing with you some of the protocols and also the procedures that you need to complete both before and after you start your dissertation. And this will involve the completion of Proposal A, Proposal B, and also ethics application form. Okay, so what are the stages of dissertation? So there are two key stages here. First one is the registration process, and then followed by the ethics application stage. So we will begin with the registration stage first. So first, you will fill out the Proposal A form, and just like what Dr. Surya mentioned earlier, you can identify a supervisor. Then check out your email, right? Because you can look out for announcement about registration, and I'm sure you have already received the announcement, and you will need to fill out the module registration form and then submit together with your Proposal A. So that's the whole registration process. So key reminder, because you need to regularly check your university email, because all the announcement will either be sent through Moodle or email. And once it is announced on Moodle, you will also be receiving the notification through your email as well. So you need to check your university email, because if you are late for your registration, there will be delays in terms of access to dissertation Moodle site, or you may not be able to register for your dissertation, and you will need to wait for the next intake. So for UNM students, the next intake means next year. All right, so make sure you check your university email very regularly. So this is the process. Once you have submitted your module registration form and also your proposal form, that means the registration process has already been completed. Then we will be assigning you a supervisor, and then you can start contacting your supervisor and begin the process. And remember, it is the student's responsibility to contact the assigned supervisor. So once the registration is complete, then we will move on to submission of Proposal B and ethics application. dissertation starts, so once your dissertation starts, you will work with your supervisor, and then you will have access to dissertation Moodle page. Then you will revise your proposal A, right, and then submit it in your proposal B, right? You will work with your supervisor on this. So what is the difference between Form A and Form B, right? So you may be wondering, why do you need to submit two forms? So Form A, you are submitting it before a supervisor is assigned to you. So there's no supervisor identified, but Form B, you will be guided by your supervisor. So Form A is actually a preliminary ideas for your dissertation. So that preliminary idea will be able to help us to identify a supervisor for you based on the area of research that you want to work on. And proposal B is when you're working with your supervisor will guide you on developing the proposal better with more detail. So that's the key differences between Form A and Form B. Form A is without supervisor's guidance. Form B is with your supervisor's guidance. So once you're done with your proposal B, the next thing is to submit your ethics application. So what do you need to submit, right, when it comes to ethics application? First, you will need to submit your draft information sheet. Draft information sheet is to inform what your study is about. And you need to have a draft consent form to your participants. You may also need a draft assent form if your research involves vulnerable individuals or those who are not able to give consent, right? For example, maybe parents. And you will also need to submit your draft instruments as well. For example, your interview guide, your survey, and you need to make sure that you also note the references as well. Put in the references, the sources that you will adopt or adapt from. You will also need to submit the participant privacy notice and also an email or letter to gatekeeper if this is needed. So these are the different documents that need to be submitted together with your ethics application form. So is it compulsory to submit an ethics application? Yes, it is compulsory. And when your research involves human subjects. So what do I need to abide by? So what do you need to abide by? So we abide by the University of Nottingham Code of Research Conduct and Research Ethics, and also BERA's Ethical Guidelines for Educational Research. So there's a link here, and the links can be found on Moodle as well. So are there any other approvals? Yes. If you're working with the local context, if your participants are from the local context, then you may need to get approval from the Malaysian Ministry of Education, right? Especially when you are collecting data from public schools in Malaysia, or Malaysian Department of Social Welfare, Malaysian National Medical Research Register, and also Jabatan Kemajuan Orang Asli Jakwa if you are working with the Orang Asli community. So that's for the local context that you will be working with. So you need to speak to your supervisor about all these things. So if it's a private context, you may not need all these approvals, but you will need to get written consent, right, to prove that they have given you consent to conduct your study with them or in their context. And what if you
Sorry, because you told us not to raise hand. But, would you mind showing the slides before this again?
Okay.
Okay. All right, got it. Sorry.
Okay. So if you are collecting data overseas, right, say you are abroad, and you are collecting data from your home country, for example, then it's your responsibility to find out the approvals or the procedures that are needed, right? Because the procedures or approvals that are needed here in Malaysia would be maybe different from any other countries as well. So you make sure you find out all these details as well. And one thing that is really important is the timing, right? Make sure that you estimate the time that is needed for all these approvals to be granted, because it may take months or weeks. And say if you're a full-time student, you will only have 4 months. Then are you able to have enough time to get all these approvals and then start your dissertation, right? So all these things will need to be taken into consideration. But no worries, because you have your supervisors to guide you. So make sure that you communicate with your supervisor very regularly. Don't go missing in action, and you will be fine. All right, so ethics application. So this is the sort of like the procedure of your ethics application. So when you submit your ethics application, you need to submit your ethics form and other paperwork. So for example, the draft consent form, the draft instruments, the different documents that I showed you earlier, right? Work with your supervisor. Then you will submit it through Moodle, right? After that, you will receive feedback from your supervisor, and there will be 3 types of outcomes. First is no revision. No revision means you don't need to do any kind of amendments to your forms, to your documents. You will then approval will be sent through Moodle, and then you can begin your dissertation and begin data collection after it has been approved by the second reviewer. All right, so it needs to be first approved by your supervisor and then followed by approval from a second reviewer. Right. So that's the first outcome. Second outcome is minor revision. Minor revision, you will receive approval from Moodle as well, and then you need to address the comments and questions and revise the form or paperwork that commented and suggested by your supervisor. Then you submit the revised form or revised paperwork to the same Moodle link. You will be allowed to submit multiple to have multiple attempts. That means you can submit to the same link several times, right? So you don't need any further approval, right, if it's minor revision, but make sure that you still address the comments and make the necessary changes. And after that, the approved application would need to be approved by the second reviewer. If everything is fine, then you can begin your data collection process. So that's the second outcome. The major revision, you will need to address the comments, questions, and revise the form or documents, right, based on your supervisor's suggestions, right? After your revision, then you will need to submit the revised form or paperwork again to the same Moodle link, because we want to document all the different versions that you have. Then once you are done, submit it to the Moodle link, and then you will again receive feedback from your supervisor, right? So again, 3 different types of outcomes, and then you would repeat the same process again. But whatever it is, you would need to have approval from your supervisor and also the second reviewer. Then only you can begin your data collection process. So do not begin collecting your data before you have gotten approval from supervisor and also second reviewer. So how to address your supervisor's comments? So you will see this. So this is a screenshot taken from the ethics application form. So your supervisor will give their comments right in the box or in the comment boxes, right? So you would need to then respond to their comments and write your response in this box. All right. So where can you locate all these different documents like ethics forms, proposal A and proposal B? You can access them on Moodle. So there's the Moodle page called PGT Postgraduate Top Level Programs module page. So that's where you can locate all these different types of information. And under the dissertation section, right, you can see different tabs, and under the registration tab, you'll be able to locate the registration form and also proposal A. And then under this tab, you'll be able to find proposal B and also your ethics application form. So these are the different information and links. So under UON and BERA, these are the different codes of conduct that we abide by. So you can read them, and there are links provided for you. And similarly, local approvals, there are different links, for example, JAQUA and Ministry of EPRD approvals, for example. So the links information are all there as well. So you can read them and access all this information from Moodle. Right, so once you are done with your submission of proposal B, submission of ethics application, then you will begin your data collection and writing. And after everything is done, then you can submit your dissertation. So this is the full process of dissertation completion before and after you start your dissertation. So I think now I'll pass it over to Dr. Wong.
Thank you. So I'm continuing with a bit of information about or explanation about your dissertation and how you can ace your dissertation. So this is ace with the capital ACE, how you can be successful with your dissertation. First of all, this is a very important question. Are you ready to commit this March? Registration is, well, the deadline for you to submit your proposal A is the 18th of March. This means at around 4th of March, you should be able to do some reading, to identify your research topic. If you are a full-time student, the commitment starts at about 4th of March to 1st of September this year. You have kind of like 4 to 5 months. You know, it's 4 months on paper, but we try to extend this a little bit to 4 to 5 months, because you can start as soon as you know who your supervisor is. Then if you are a part-time student, you get a bit more time, and you will also still need to make sure that you can commit up to 2nd of January 2025. These are your submission deadlines. Just to let you know, in the last few rounds of submission dates, we have had students who registered, but then they could not commit. And so time was wasted. And they only came to us, you know, in the last 2 months, last 3 months, and that was very, very difficult for us to support students. And some of these students just couldn't make it after doing 4 modules, passing 4 modules, and after trying to start this dissertation, in the end, it's like no MA at all. So that's a big waste. So make sure you are ready to commit. Check your personal commitments. I know most of us are working here, or we have got other personal commitments, and make sure that you have the physical health or emotional capacity to begin your dissertation, especially full-time students, because this is quite an intensive commitment. Not a too stressful one, because if you work closely with your supervisor, you can definitely ace this. Right. Then secondly, working with your supervisor. Working closely means you and your supervisor have got specific responsibilities. So supervisors, they are there to provide guidance in helping you to refine your topic and refine your research design. But you have to be the person driving this project. So you need to know what you want to do in the first place. Can't go to your supervisor without any kind of idea, and you're just waiting for your supervisor to tell you what to do. Your supervisor will have the experience to tailor their guidance to your needs and to your abilities. You know, all students are different. Students may want to do different things with their dissertation, or they might want to have achieve different goals through their dissertation. So let your supervisor know, so your supervisor can support you accordingly. then it is also the supervisor's role to direct you to the best suited avenues. So you might want to go to public schools and you need ethical approval from the Minister of Education. I'm talking about the Malaysian context here. You want to go directly into public school. And sometimes this might take time. If you might want to go to hospitals for those who are doing special needs, for instance, public hospitals, you need ethical approval with the medical council, and this will take you a very, very long time. So we might say, no, this is not what we encourage you to do because you will spend a lot of time waiting for ethical approval. Let's try a different avenue. So this is when your supervisors, together with their experience, will come in and help you to do something feasible. And we also will be encouraging you to be independent. We might support you a bit more in the beginning, but eventually you will be the one leading this project and will be there behind the scenes supporting you. So it's also your supervisor's role to create a comfortable atmosphere. So you are not frightened to ask questions. You're not frightened to work with us. Some of you would have taken modules with us, and you know us, right? We are not scary people. And it is also our role to provide you with constructive comments, not just on your writing style, but on what you want to do as well. For writing, as Dr. Surya Anjit has mentioned, we give constructive feedback for one chapter, and that's a regulation by the School of Education in the UK. So, you know, the School of Education in the UK started much earlier than us, and that's kind of the policy that we are following at the moment. So you would have done 4 modules by the time you do your dissertation. So with that, you would have enough experience and enough feedback from your previous modules to write your dissertation. It would be quite problematic if you still can't write your dissertation after doing 4 modules. Right, so then your responsibility, so you are going to be the one leading and driving the project. If you are encountering any kind of problems, let's say problems with data collection or personal issues, you need to let us know immediately. You can't sit and wait till the very last few months and then come to us for help. We are not magicians. We don't own the university, so we don't set the rules. And it's very difficult for us to support you if you go missing in action in the first few months and come to us in a very, very last minute. We probably can't do much or can't do anything at all. So work very closely with us right from the beginning. If you know that you have extenuating circumstances, then speak to your personal tutor about possible solutions. Don't register for your dissertation just because it's time to do so. Make sure you have resolved all your problems or you have workable solutions to juggle your problems and your dissertation at the same time. Then it is also your responsibility to read about your topic. And it's not just reading about your topic, but to read about methodology, the types of methodology that you want to do. So very often students will say, I want to do interviews with my participants. And we are like, yeah, so what do you want to do? Why are you doing your interviews? It's your responsibility to find out why you want to adopt or take on a particular methodology. And this has to be related to your topic, to your problem statement, and so forth. It is your responsibility to check the APA conventions. It's not that difficult to do so. Everything is spelled out. So these are pretty basic, and we would have expected you to develop an understanding and skills in using academic writing by the time you are writing your dissertation. So keep record of meetings with your supervisor. What was said in a meeting, what are you supposed to do before the next meeting? So come prepared. What to bring to the next meeting, come prepared as well. Before you end one particular meeting, come up with action plans with your supervisor. What are the things that you need to do and what are the things you will be presenting to your supervisor? And if possible, when will be your next meeting with your supervisor. So plan all of these things accordingly and monitor your progress. It's not the supervisor's role to come after you and say, hey, I've not heard from you for like 2 months, 3 months. Where are you now? What are you doing now? And then you're like, oh, I've been experiencing this and that. So it's your responsibility to monitor your timeline. Your supervisors will be working with multiple students, as you would have known by now. They'll be working with students who are doing their modules and assignments, postgraduate, undergraduate, research-based like PhD students, and a whole bunch of other things. So it's very difficult for us to monitor everyone's timeline, and we do expect postgraduate students to be able to do so independently, right? Okay, next. So I highly recommend all of you to read this book. This is a book by Creswell and Timon, I hope I'm reading this correctly. So it's a 2020 book. Creswell's books are always, very easy to understand for new researchers. So educational research, it has got very good explanations about how to plan your dissertation, how to conduct your dissertation, and so forth. So the next few slides will be information that I've taken out from this particular book. This book is available as an online ebook from our library. Okay, so the structure of a dissertation. Now, this is figure 9.3 on Creswell's book, and it says the structure for kind of a dissertation of a quantitative study. The structure will be about the same for a qualitative study as well. This is not the only structure. There can be some flexibility to how you want to organize your headings sometimes. But generally, this is the core elements that need to be there are there, right? So your first chapter, typically for a MA dissertation, is your introduction. So you're introducing what the issue is and what you're doing. You're leading your readers to to what you want to do. So that's the first chapter generally. Then second chapter is your literature review. So literature review, as all of you would have known by now, is a review of the literature. I know I'm being very literal here, but you are reviewing what people have done with regard to your topic. What are the findings that we know right now? So you have to be broad and you have to go deep as well, deep as in critical with what you're going to find out about what people have done. Through there, you will also know what hasn't been done, kind of. So you will, kind of write what has been done and then highlight what hasn't been done. And that will again lead you to why you are doing what you want to do. Then the third chapter is your methodology. This is where you'll be writing about your participants, your designs, your instruments, and so forth. Your fourth chapter, typically, it will be your results or your findings chapter. So you will be reporting your findings here, qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods analysis. Okay, then your next chapter after results is typically your discussion chapter. This is where you discuss your results. You will not be presenting any new results here. It is quite typical for new researchers and MA students to present more results in the discussion chapter. That's not the purpose of this chapter. If you look at what's written on the first line, it's summary of major results. This is also a good place for you to be answering your research questions. So you're linking what you have done, the data that you've collected, back to what you promised you would be doing in your introduction. So you have to explain your findings, why or how you got those findings, and you're going to be linking this explanation to existing studies, the review of the literature that you have done. So discussion second line here, it says relationship of results to existing studies. Now, this is not just about so-and-so also found similar findings, full stop. So-and-so found different findings, full stop. That's not relating. You are kind of, but you stop very, very immaturely, just telling us it's the same or it's the different. Explain that, elaborate on the findings that you've got. So you're trying to kind of make informed speculation to let us understand your findings further. Then you can have a separate conclusion chapter, and you can put in your limitations, implications, and your overall significance, the conclusion. Or sometimes people like to just put everything in the discussion chapter, right? Doesn't matter whether you're separating them or you're putting these in one big discussion chapter. What is important is your limitations are there, your implications are there, and your final conclusion is there as well. Then you have your references and your appendices. So this is the general structure. So it's not the only structure, but a general structure. Yeah, a general guide. Okay, then the very first thing that you will be doing before you meet your supervisor, before you go to anyone, is to identify your research problem, right? And just like what Surya has mentioned earlier, very often, because you guys are practitioners mainly, MA students come to us with what they're very passionate about or with problems that they frequently encounter at work. That's a very good start to relate your personal experience and to want to know more about your personal experience, but it's not the only justification for doing the topic that you want to do. Once you've identified, what an area of interest, the next thing that you need to do is, can we go to the next slide? Then we'll come back to this one. Yeah, so a topic, then you kind of know what the problem is, you need justification. This justification, we cannot emphasize this enough, has to come from the literature. So you need to read broadly to see if this issue that you're highlighting is really an issue, or is it just a personal problem that you're facing, right? So you will also know whether there are already solutions being generated for this problem. It's just that you didn't know the solutions out there, or there's no solution and therefore we want to know more. So justification from the literature is extremely important to strengthen your study or the purpose of your study. Okay, by knowing what people have done in the literature, what evidence we have got, that will help you to know what is missing and what needs to be further explored, right? So this is very important. To me, when I work with students, their statement of problem is extremely important, because once you have identified a good research problem, then, Junior, can we go back to the previous slide? With a good research problem, you can then generate a good purpose statement, research purpose. And once you have a good research purpose, then you can be more specific in generating your research questions. Okay, so this very first step of generating research problem is important, and it involves relating what you know personally, if you want, with the literature, with evidence. Then second chapter, literature review. This is from Creswell. You can read this on your own. So you have all the key elements. You kind of know what they are. You locate the literature. You select what's important, organize your chapter, synthesize the information, and write your literature review. You can read the details in Creswell's book. Then your findings, methodology, and the other chapters after this. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so coming back to this particular slide, then you write out the other chapters. On the PGT Taught Moodle page, we have also put up a long list of samples, dissertation samples from past students. So you would see those who got distinctions, those who got merit, and some failed ones, together with the feedback that we gave the students. So those are examples of dissertation produced by our past students that you can refer to. It's under the dissertation section, forms and dissertation. Now, remember, when you are referring to those past students' work, those work are not, they're not perfect. because these were dissertations produced by other students. So do not follow their format or the way they reference to the T. If you aren't aware of what the actual conventions are, go back to the original source of information. So APA 7, check APA 7 and see what APA 7's website or read the book to see what the actual conventions are. Yeah, so that is all from me. And I'm passing this session to Shiwei and our students, or former students, some of them. Oh no, graduating students.
Thanks, Ziping. Okay. So there are three invited participants today, all at different stages of the MA dissertation. So I just want to check everyone is here. So Magdalene, Alice, and Michelle. I saw Michelle online, but she's on. Hi, Michelle. Hi. So this session, I'm Dr. Tu, by the way, everyone. Chiwei, call me Chiwei. So this forum is an opportunity for our students to share about their experiences. So let me introduce the three panelists. First is Alice. So Alice has actually already submitted her dissertation. So she's already submitted it last year. And Alice is from the MA TESOL program. She submitted it last October. And her topic of her dissertation is to explore the usefulness of selecting commercial English phonics materials in facilitating the development of young learner orthographic knowledge and action research with a 5-year-old learner. So Alice has completed her dissertation journey. And the next participant, the next panelist is Magdalene. Magdalene is from the MA Education program. And Magdalene is going to submit the dissertation tomorrow. Am I right, Magdalene? So it's going to be submitted tomorrow, the 1st of February. And Magdalene's topic is about understanding the perspectives of Singapore secondary school teachers on the development of critical thinking in students in schools. So as of tomorrow, once Magdalene submits, that's the completion of the dissertation. Michelle is in our MA Special and Inclusive Education program, currently in the middle of the dissertation. So Michelle is doing her data analysis, and her topic is on teacher agency for inclusive education, a focus on special educational needs in Malaysia. So Michelle, you have a little bit more to go before you finally submit. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. So from three of these panelists, we have from diverse programs, and slightly different stages, or either finish or towards the end. So I will begin by asking a question to the three panelists, right? So the first question that I will ask is, what are the important skills that you would need for completing the dissertation? So I would like you to take turns. So we can perhaps start with Alice. What are some of the skills that you need, important skills, to complete the dissertation?
Hello, everybody. I'm Alice. Can you hear me clearly? Yes, okay, thank you. So there are some important skills that you need to complete a dissertation. So the first one I said is time management, self-discipline, communication and be analytical and critical while you're writing. So allow me to further elaborate a little bit. So when I mentioned time management, I totally agree with what Dr. Wong mentioned earlier. So planning and scheduling, despite the fact that it looks like it's like you're spending a lot of time doing something that's not done, but actually it's very helpful. If you have a very good planning, probably will save up 40% of your energy while you're writing. Okay, so it also help you to focus better because what I experienced earlier is sometimes if you don't have a very good outline of your dissertation, you might actually struggle while you have a lot of information going on in the process, and then you might easily get distracted by other information and accidentally lose focus of your dissertation. So I would say planning, time management is all important. Get a calendar, mark down all the important dates. Okay, just and also including when you plan to meet up your supervisor, all sort of stuff. Yeah, and also it's important to know that because I know most of us here, probably all of us here are working adults, I assume. So you probably are juggling your work and your study at the same time. So it's very important to keep that in mind. So a planner is highly recommended. Okay, and self-discipline. So going through this process, you probably will go through tons of different emotions. So I would say do the right thing and what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Okay, just get it done. Okay, and communication is key. All right, so what Dr. Wong said earlier also, yeah, write down all the problems that you plan to ask your supervisor because you only have limited opportunities during the process. According to what our university has given us, we have like 3 meetings with your supervisor. So fully utilize those opportunities. And then also be analytical and critical while you are writing. So always check the language that you're using, make sure you use the right term. And if you're not sure, just ask, okay? Yeah, so that's what I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So shall we move on to Magdalene?
I think Alice has shared quite a bit, and yeah, get it done is essentially my mantra right now. Just keep telling myself that. I think in addition, what has really helped me was to be very organized with how you use everything. I think you will end up using a lot of references. You will end up having a lot of data to work with. So I think having a system in place was very important. So being very organized with how you go about doing it. So for example, if you're going through a lot of literature, I think if we've all done PBI with Dr. August, he tells us how to use the literature bank so that we can all summarize our literature very quickly and then access it very quickly as well. So that came in very useful. And then have a referencing system in place also, whether you're using Mendeley Insight or something, have something that helps you keep track of whatever you're using, even the data also. How do you then structure everything such that it's, it's easy to refer to? Because I think we more often than not, we can get very lost. And then be like, I read this paper, but I don't know where it's from. So I think have all these systems in place at the start, especially, so that it will help you as you move on. And I think as like what Alice said, time management and being consistent. So every single day, even though you're like, why am I doing this? And you're so tired from work, you just say, get it done. So sometimes for me, it's just about, okay, I'm just going to plan the next paragraph. And then I just put in pointers, but at least you keep yourself kind of in touch with what you're writing and you don't leave it like cold. So I think that was quite important for me as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Magdalene. Very interesting sharing so far. So our last panelist, Michelle, what are some of the skills which are important to complete a dissertation?
I think like Magdalene and Alice already shared quite a lot of them. I guess I will just reiterate the 2 that I find is most important. The first is obviously time management. So you've heard that 3 times now. So just know that it is an important skill. Effective planning is really essential. Like Dr. Wong had mentioned earlier in the call, that in the beginning, your supervisor might support you a bit more, but then as you go forward, it's in your hands and it's your responsibility. So having internal deadlines for yourself, it really helps to manage your time better as you've allocated attention towards certain chapters. And I found for me that it's helped reduce the stress and the breakdowns a little bit less. So And then my second one would be discipline. Before I started my dissertation, a lot of people that I knew, they had mentioned that motivation is key. So be sure to pick a topic that interests you. But I've personally found that discipline is actually what's key. While it is important that you do pick a topic that you're engaged with, relying solely on motivation will not be sufficient enough for you to complete the dissertation, as motivation fluctuates. So just like how our emotions do. So try your best to practice and cultivate self-discipline for sustaining a more consistent and effective work approach throughout the duration of the dissertation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, all of you, Alice, Magdalene, and Michelle, for that wonderful sharing. So these are all the very important skills, yeah, for completing your dissertation. And my next question is something slightly, perhaps Dr. Wong has already touched on it, which is the roles and responsibilities of the student and the supervisor. But I'd like to hear from you because you have personal experiences with your supervisors. I'm sure it was a very interesting journey for you. So for you personally, what was the role, the role that you played, you felt that you had that role, and also the role of your supervisor, which really supported you all. Can you share with us, Alice? First.
Okay, so I was very honored because I was assigned two supervisors to me last year. So the role that I think students play is you have to be very proactive. So it's very different from when you're maybe at elementary school or secondary school, right? So you cannot just sit there and wait. Okay, so this whole journey, you have to take full responsibility of all of your planning and writing. So you have to keep in mind that whatsoever mistakes that you make, you have to take full responsible of it. So that having this in mind really helps you to know how to communicate with your supervisor, because it also help you to ask the right question as well. So a lot of times you cannot go to your supervisor with empty brain. You have to know what to ask already. Okay, and then your supervisor is just there to guide you. And also you cannot expect your supervisor knows everything about what you are researching, because education field is a very big field. And then sometimes some of the supervisors that were assigned to you might not be that area of the expert, right? So you're also exchanging knowledge with your supervisor as well. So just think yourself as actually a contributor of knowledge, okay? And then your supervisor as just a guidance, okay? Will just light your way when you're in the gloom. That's how I picture and experience it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alice. Magdalene?
Okay, so I was assigned to the lovely Dr. Chu here as my supervisor. And I think the process really is that, like Alice said, right, you are leading the project. It's really on the responsibility is on you. So your supervisor will not be like dropping you an email saying, "Hi, has this been done yet?" Because you are in charge of the process, right? Nobody's going to be kind of like nagging at you or giving you check-ins. I think you have to make sure that you are on schedule accordingly. That's something I had to learn also. But at some point, I was just like, will she ask me if I'm late? Things like that. But you realize that you are taking ownership of the entire thing. So yeah, you check in whenever you need help, whenever you've completed the next section and you need some advice. That's when you reach out to your supervisor. And like Alice said, the supervisor is there to guide your thinking and guide the research process. I think it's very different from evaluating the content of your research. So it's more like she gives you, like, okay, how do I then evaluate my data? She can give you ideas on how to process that, but not so much work on the content itself. That's quite important because that's something that you need to then do on your own. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Magdalene. Michelle?
Also very similar is taking responsibility for your work. So writing up your drafts of your chapters and seeking regular feedback whenever possible, and also updating your supervisor on your progress, or if you've hit any stages where maybe you feel stuck or confused or lost. And then the supervisor's role would include assisting the student, especially during challenges, providing constructive feedback on where the student can improve and strive for a better development for their paper.
Thanks, Michelle. This takes us to the next question, which is, what are the challenges that you had encountered during the dissertation, and how do you overcome the challenges, or how did you overcome for those who have completed? Yeah. So again, start with Alice.
Okay. So it's like this. So for my situation, I applied for a full-time master's student, but at the same time, I'm also a full-time worker. So meaning that I only got 4 months to get my, dissertation done at the same time working full-time job. So it was crazy for me. So I encountered quite a lot of obstacles during the process. But how I solved my problem was I have the habits of actually taking certain breaks during the middle because I only got 4 months, right? So what I did is I will at least allocate 2 weeks, that is like completely dedicated to my dissertation so that I have enough time, to work on it. So there's some sacrifices you definitely have to make. Yeah. So also your health is also another thing. So you have to be aware of your health situation. And if you really have any difficulty completing, you really have to let your supervisor know. So don't just pretend that you're a superwoman or superman. Okay, we're not. We're all humans. So it's okay to feel fatigued during the middle. You just have to communicate well. So that's that's why I constantly updated my supervisor about my situation, my progress, and what kind of difficulties that I'm challenging. I did get sick during the middle of the dissertation. Yeah, and also so all these I did report to my supervisor. So this is how I solve my problem. So get enough rest, keep updating your supervisor, and also sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. You have to choose the most important thing to do. Okay, that's all.
That's very important. Thank you for sharing. Magdalene, what were the challenges? I think I went through the journey with you, so I heard of it already, but you can share it with everyone.
Similar to Alice, right? As a part-time student, you're working. And I think that's the major challenge. And I think, you have the time of 8 months to do a dissertation, but you will have peak periods at work. You will have periods of time where you're just like, I don't have that 1 hour to spend on your dissertation. Or even if you give yourself that 1 hour, it isn't enough time to really get into the zone of doing anything sometimes. So there were moments that I think I had 1 or 2 weeks where I just wasn't able to touch it. And then when I came back to it, I'm like, what was I saying here? You really lost track of what happened. So that happened. I think I had multiple moments where work was quite overwhelming for me. So I think what was important was I actually redid my Gantt chart, I think twice. So my project timeline, right? But I think what was important was really giving myself buffer time. So always anticipating more time than I needed so that you always have additional time left and you're not like at the verge of always. Yeah. So that's what I tried to do. I think I had sufficient buffer time in the end to at least still be at the process of reviewing, ample time to review it and to look through the paper, still in the process of doing it now and making it better. But yeah, I think really planning ahead and giving yourself that buffer is quite important.
Yes, buffer time. So I'm sure you'll be able to submit tomorrow.
Yes, right? yes, that will happen.
Or today, for sure. Yes, Magdalene is a very good student. I'm confident.
No.
Yeah. Michelle, over to you. Michelle, challenges.
So the main challenge that I faced, and I'm still facing it today, but I'm a lot better than I was at the very beginning, is balancing my working time on my dissertation, but also having a life outside of that. I found in the beginning stages of my dissertation, that's all I ever worked on. I just opened it every single day and I would work on it for hours and I would never go outside. I just solely, and I found that it put me in a very negative space because it's like that's what was consuming me. So over time, I eventually found what worked for me. As I'm a full-time student, thankfully at this period, I don't have any work that I need to tend to, so I can fully focus a lot of my time on my dissertation. I found that for 6 days out of the week, I spend at least 80% of my day working on my dissertation, and then one day out of the week, I will just completely not touch it. It's like I give myself a mental breather from that and just socialize with my family, with my friends, and do what I want to do, so that it's not the only thing that is controlling me or consuming me every single day. Yeah, so that's my challenge.
Yeah, so finding the balance, right? As from what all of you shared. The last question I'll be asking the panel before I open to the floor, right? I will give everyone opportunity to ask. So you might want to think of questions that you want to ask after this the last question that I'll be posing. So the last question from me would be, what have you learned through the dissertation journey? Your lesson, the lesson you learned, and therefore, what advice then would you give to students who are about to begin their dissertation? Alice again.
Okay, so it's what I learned the most, yes?
Yeah.
From this. Okay, so what I learned the most is actually very rewarding. Why I would say that is because I think it's a self-discovery process, because during during the process of dissertation, despite the fact that you still have to write your paper, but just now the three of us, we share a lot of character building during the process. So I also discovered that what I personally could achieve, and then what I couldn't do. And so it's a personal growth. And then it is the type of growth that I find that can make you grow rapidly. Yeah, in a very short moment of time. Yeah, so what I learned the most is like, still again back to the topic, is being persistent. So the grit, you're training yourself to pull through a very difficult process. Yeah, so this is what I would say, that for the people who are still writing or just starting your dissertation, don't give up yet. You will discover a lot of wonderful things about yourself during the process. You'll never know, but you have to pull it through. Just hang in there. Okay, you'll be okay. Yeah.
Good advice. Hang in there. Yeah. Pull through. Okay. So the next person, Magdalene.
Okay, so for me, I think I'm probably reiterating what Alice and Michelle shared, but it's really the importance of planning and organizing. So I think having a very good Form B is important. That's what Dr. Chu has really emphasized also. Having the more detailed you plan out your Form B, the easier your dissertation journey, because you can just keep referring back to your Form B. It really serves as the skeleton for your entire research. So it feels like a lot of work at the start, but it's worth it. So do the necessary planning, because it really helps you out. And then the next thing is be consistent about how you organize everything. Like I mentioned it earlier. I think sometimes we get lazy. I think I have gone through previous modules as well where I get lazy filling up my literature banks. But just keep doing it, because especially when you're in the process of reviewing and double checking whether certain literature said certain things, it comes in so much. It helps so much more. So for me, what I also used was, whenever I had supervision feedback, I would actually consolidate everything in OneNote documents. So it's easy to access. If they send certain links or certain references that are important, I will actually consolidate everything there as well, so that everything can be easily accessed. Yeah, I think especially when you have a part-time student and you don't have much time, you need everything to be easy to access. So I think that's one thing. The second thing would be actually find a topic that really interests you. I think 8 months is a long stretch of time, and you might get bored of the topic halfway through, especially after you finish your literature review, like, oh, another paper. But so I did go through that cycle, very honestly, even though it was a topic that I was interested in. But as I went through the interview process, then I get interested again, and then when you go through the data analysis process, you get interested again, and then you read more data, read more literature to do your discussion, and then you pique that interest again. So I think that helped, but like Michelle said, that discipline to keep going is important, but having the interest also keeps you additionally motivated, I would say, to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, so the planning and organizing, take note of that. To prospect it to the incoming students who are about to start. Well, the last panelist, Michelle. What did you learn the most, and your advice to the other students?
Okay, so I have a few, but I will try and not take up too much time explaining them. But the first one is very similar to what Magdalene shared. You know, in relation to the proposal B, as detailed as you can make it, do that. It can be quite time consuming, and you might get bored, or you know, feel like, oh, I shouldn't have to go this in detail yet, or whatever your thought process is. But trust me, whatever you are able to get done early, just get it done and out of the way. It will help your future self, especially in regards to the ethics form. If you can get that approved as early as possible in the beginning stages of your dissertation, then you can begin collecting your data almost immediately, and you'll have more time to properly analyze your data and yeah, things like that. The second one would be setting realistic goals. So be realistic about what you can achieve within a certain given time frame. If you set overly ambitious goals, that might lead to more stress or potentially burnout. Also, another thing that I went through, which was that I compared myself to my fellow friends who are also in the same dissertation journey as me. I would find myself, you know, checking in with them. Where are they with their progress? And then I would compare, where am I with my progress? And I would think like, wait, why am I here but they are here? Like, why am I working faster or slower than them? Have I done something wrong? Or, you know, just rather keep within yourself. I mean, of course, check in with your friends. Obviously, I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm just focus on your own progress and discuss your journey with your supervisor, and they are there to help you through it all. The third thing is taking care of yourself. I know Dr. Wong mentioned earlier that be sure that you're ready to commit, because it is a very intense time period. But at the same time, don't neglect your well-being in the process of it all, because that's just going to it's not going to benefit you in the long run. And then my last thing would be to ask for help when you need it. Don't shy away. Your supervisors are there for a reason. They are there to help you and guide you. They're not there to hinder your progress. So if you're stuck, if you're facing a challenge, reach out. Don't leave it to the last minute. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's great sharing from all three of you. So now I would like to open it to the floor. I would like to open the floor for questions. So I invite anyone to ask questions to any one of the panelists, Michelle, Magdalene, or Alice. Yeah, so this is your chance. You can raise your hands or unmute yourself, and then you can just ask the question, and then we'll try to address it. Is there anybody would like to ask questions? Anything? Or it could be something that they have said earlier that you want to have further clarification about certain ways they completed the dissertation. Yeah, so it could also be for clarification. Is it Juan?
Yeah, Juan, how are you?
Juan, hi. Juan.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Checking. I'm curious. So I'm like a lot of you guys. I'm doing the Masters of Education through Ngee in Singapore. And one of the issues that I have, because I work 40, 50 hours a week, is how do you block your time to make sure that you have enough time to get everything done, but not too much time in a gap that you forget what you're doing? Do you do like do you calendar things during the week, or do you like pick a certain day, or what works for you? And I know it's probably something that is different for everyone, but I'm curious.
I think Magdalene is from NAA as well, from Ngee Ann Academy. Yeah. So maybe for this, Magdalene can answer first, and then the other Alice and Michelle, you can chip in as well.
I mean, I think, it'll probably be more similar to other part-time students as well. I don't really block in that every single day I have to do something. It really depends on how my work schedule looks like. So usually for me, I will have a big, like I would say, for example, writing of my results and my results section, I'll say I'll give myself a week to do that or 2 weeks to do that. And then once I'm more familiar with, or sure of how my work schedule would look like, then I will then divide it into different parts. So there will be some days that I'm just putting out point form, and there'll be some days that, or usually on the weekends, that's when I do the beef, really fleshing it out and writing out in words. But usually on the weekdays, it really depends on your work schedule. If it allows you the time to write, because I do feel like I need at least a good 2-3 hour block to sit down and write. If it's about an hour a day, you really can't do much but do planning. Yeah, but if you have a good point form plan, usually that really helps you out with your writing. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That's
Yeah,
about,
thanks.
planning. Anyone would like to add to it? Alice or Michelle? No? Anything you want to add to that question?
Oh, just a little bit only. Oh yeah, just make sure when you're blocking your time for your research paper, right? Please also include the time for yourself to proofread your own work and also editing, because sometimes we might accidentally forget that process, and then when you're so close to the deadline, then you only realize I didn't have the chance to actually read from top to bottom again. So that is also very important. And if you really like your supervisor to read part of your work, you also have to plan everything early as well, and then talk to your supervisor beforehand just to make sure if they are willing to do so. Some supervisors I know, they're actually willing to go over a little bit. Like if you really need some extra help and then you did manage to ask them early, you can actually get more than you expected during the process. Like if they say usually they say, read one chapter only, but maybe during the process, if you really manage to have extra time, they might actually go through a little bit, maybe read 2 or 3 chapters of your work. You never know. So just, save some time for that too.
Thank you, Alice. So maybe I'll allow 1 or 2 more questions. I mean, for the opportunity for others to ask if you have something you really have to find out from the panelists. Feel free to ask. Yeah, I think we can have 1 minute or 2 minutes more. Anyone? Lumin, I see Lumin, you have raised your hands. Yeah, go ahead. You can unmute and ask the question. Lumin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my question's more, how did you come across your topics? Was it something that you felt like what? Because I'm at the beginning stages, just trying to cycle through what I might be interested in doing, but what was the bigger attraction? Something that you've always wanted to do, or that there was a lack of research and you wanted to fill it in? I guess because my temptation is when I read things, I feel like I want to change my area of focus because it seems so interesting. So you just keep, it's like you can never seem to find the thing that you want to do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So so the question, how do you find your topic? Who would like to attempt this first? Michelle or Alice? Or you could start first? Alice,
Sure,
perhaps, or Michelle could start. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what got me interested in my topic was because prior to me starting my dissertation, I had worked at an inclusive school, and in an inclusive school there, I had students with special needs in my classroom, and I found that a lot of current research in Malaysia is very specific to teachers' attitudes, their knowledge, and their self-efficacy in relation to how they feel ready to teach such children within their classes. And Dr. Wong is my supervisor, so I reached out to her in the beginning prior to the actual start of the dissertation, and she helped me to narrow down to a more specific area, such as teacher agency, that isn't as explored within Malaysia, but it's still in some ways relate to what I initially wanted to look at, but on a deeper level.
Alice, you want to go next, and then maybe Magdalene. Yeah. How did you find your topic?
Okay, so for me, it's quite similar to Michelle, but what I would conclude is we both actually have the similar thing, which is our experience. We tie our experience with our research. So one of the benefits of doing so is because it helps you with your analysis, how you select your data, and somehow it will be also more rewarding because whatever you are doing, you can actually apply that in your own life. And then, so that would be a good potential for you to find a topic. Yeah, if you start thinking to that direction, so what can you do? Yeah, after you finish your research. So for my topic just now, I talk about young learner. It's because I'm already working with these young learner, and so I just wanna, further study my own practice. Yeah, so that's how I come to my own research topic.
Magdalene.
Yeah, I think similar, using personal experiences or work experiences. So for me, why I chose critical thinking is because it's something that, as I interact with students in Singapore right now, is something I'm noticing, right? That there's this kind of lack of critical thinking. So that kind of interests me into, okay, let's find out what's happening more in the system. So that's what started me off on it. And actually what I did was I actually used this topic also for one of my previous modules. So when you do that, you have some preliminary research being done, and you have some literature in your bank already. And then what I did was I extended it a little bit more, have a bit more of a scope, to do it for my dissertation. Yeah.
Yep. So it's about, asking a supervisor also to help you narrow down, to draw onto your experiences, to find your topic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That was really interesting actually to hear that. So yeah, early stages. So attempting to stay on the path, though, that's the other thing.
Don't get distracted. Commit.
Commit. Thanks, Louis, for the question. Maybe one last question. Anybody? One last question before we close the forum. I see a hand raised. Is it Louis? Okay, one last question. Anybody? Looks like no one has any questions. Okay, so if no more questions from the floor. So we will conclude the forum. I'd like to say thanks again to Michelle, Alice, and Magdalene for taking our time, especially Magdalene, she's submitting tomorrow. So for taking the time to come to this forum to share experiences. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Shiwei, Alice, Magdalene, and Michelle. Really good insights. Then congratulations, Alice. We'll be seeing you at the next graduation, I suppose, and very, very soon, Magdalene and of course, Michelle, all graduating this year. Yeah, that's great news. Okay, we have got a bit more time, and this time we would like to invite questions for the staff members. So you can ask questions about, the registration processes, question about whether you're ready or not, those kind of questions. And all of us here, we have got almost everyone from the school here, if I'm not wrong, so we can all chip in different insights to help you start your dissertation smoothly. Okay, so I'm going to do something that's not very popular. So while you are thinking, so I'm distracting your thinking at the moment, but still saying while you are thinking, we will be putting up a link on the PhD Taught Moodle page. That's the page where you go to submit your module registration form. So this is for UNM-based students, and for students who are registered with NAA, you will be submitting your forms to our NAA colleagues, and then the forms will come to us. When I say form, I mean the Form A, right? So the link, we'll put up the link very soon and let you know that the link is up there and you can begin submitting your Form A. So you can also begin talking to staff members and to potential supervisors if you want. There's just, one guarantee that we can't make at this point of time, and that is you will be working with the person you're working with. We'll try our very, very best to match students and supervisors according to preference and preference and interest. However, sometimes when a supervisor is, preferred by too many students, then we'll have to start moving, students to some other supervisors as well. Hopefully this won't happen. Earlier, I've also shared a Word document that is also on the PGT Moodle. I will let you know specifically where it is in another announcement later. So that document, if I can share my screen with you, just a moment. Just very quickly to show you what it's like. Yeah. So this is the document that we've shared. So we are actually doing this for the first time, and we're hoping we'll be able to help students to know our areas of interest a bit more. Now, it doesn't mean that we can only supervise in these specific areas, but it is to let you know that these are our main interests. So we have kind of listed what we can do or interested in doing. But if you want to propose other topics, then please do as well. We understand sometimes you will want to work on topics that are important for your career growth or important for your personal growth, as long as it is related to, the topic is related to your program, SIE, education, TESOL, ALM, then that's fine. We will supervise you or help you to narrow down your topic. But these are the proposed ones. So you can have a look at these ones. And on this document, our name will also link, take you, if you open hyperlink, for instance, it will also take you to our web profile. So you can read our work a little bit more. Okay, so that's just a little bit of information about, sorry, not this one. Yeah, this one. This document that I've just shared with you. Yeah, okay, we've got a question.
Yeah, me again. One, that document's a really good idea because this is, I've done a previous master's, but it was pretty undirected. And I think it's really good that you have a document that lets the supervisors tell you what they're interested in, because that's really important. But the other thing I wanted to ask about is, and I've already spoken to Dr. Roz about this, go Dr. Roz, it's really hard to narrow down your broad interests into something that you can condense into a dissertation paper. Because my interests are quite broad. I do leadership, I do diversity, I do all these sort of things. And I think I'm not sure how to actually boil it down to a specific point. Because I'm one of those people that I will read for 6 months and not produce anything at the end of it unless I have some real direction, right? Because I love data and I'm not real good at tying it down. So I wonder if anyone in here has any suggestions for, because I'm at the point where I have to start my dissertation. So I sort of, if I turn behind me, I have this massive data and things that I'm interested in. And if I turn back to my dissertation, I'm like, how do I take all this data and pick that one thing that is boiled down to something I can use? And that's the thing that I'm finding really difficult, because I've had conversations. I'm like, I should do this. And then when I have that thing, I'm like, oh, I could do this, but this is not really, maybe there's enough there, maybe there's not, but there's all these other things that I'm interested in. And I have trouble boiling it all into a workable equation, for want of a better word. So and I know this is my problem, but
it's not your problem.
Vague. I know it's very vague, but I'm curious if anyone has any ideas roughly how they did it or how they would approach it.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's not your problem. It's a researcher's problem. We are very interested in the field that we're working in. So,
it's
and
everyone's
as you
problem, but it's also my problem, right?
as you're
So,
reading, we'll be like, hey, I think this is more interesting than what I've decided to do. Now, I should have done this. Why don't I change my topic to this? This will keep happening as you are reading. And this is when supervisors will tell you, you need to stop changing, what you want to do. And this discussion is very important in the very beginning. So talk to your supervisor, and with their experience, the supervisor will be asking you, what do you want to achieve out of your dissertation? What your interests are? And they can also help you to break all this huge amount of information into specific topics, or you can do that. I have got like 10 topics that I want to do. Then you can rank them, prioritize them, which one is more important to you. What is important to you today might change next week, but you have to decide at one point of time. And after that, it is really nailing down, what you want to do. Your supervisor will help you to refine the topic. Refining topic is not an easy job. It cannot be done. Well, I won't say it cannot be done. It's very difficult for you to do it on your own. And again, this is when a good discussion with your supervisor will help you to refine your topic and, really identify what the research problem is. And from there, you formulate your research purpose and your research questions. I often find this process difficult, but once you have got this done, that will pave the way to what you will be doing next. So that's how I work with my students. I will also invite my colleagues and also the panelists to share what your experiences are when it comes to helping students to kind of nail down that one topic. Any tips from my colleagues and from Michelle, Alice, and Magdalene?
My tip is, for me personally, knowing the context of my study is very important for me to narrow down my topic. So the context of the country we're in, like in Malaysia, what are the important issues or problems that, is occurring within that context? Let's say for a particular population of people. So knowing the more recent policies and so context involves the policies, the people, the problems, and the issues which are current. But not only the context, of course, in terms of my experience within the context, but at the same time linking it to the research literature. So some of the research which might have been done in the local context or in the international context, we just have to look at that area where there is a gap, right? There's an insufficient area of research. And to do that, we also have to identify some of the past studies, their issues in their methodology. So methodological issues, maybe the sample size was, maybe let's say past research have done surveys. So a survey is good, gives you a broad picture, it helps you to identify trends, but it doesn't allow you to have a very in-depth understanding of a particular topic. So maybe that is a gap. So you want to know a much more in-depth of that in terms of that topic. So you might choose a method, a research design that allows you to discover that topic in more in-depth manner, such as a case study, for instance. So that, for me, knowing the context, knowing the research, identifying the gaps would help me to narrow down my topic. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, I think Dirk has raised this. You are muted. You're muted.
I'm happy to chip in. We couldn't hear you, John, because you were on mute.
John was saying something, but you were muted, so we couldn't hear. If you could repeat yourself, yeah. And then Dirk
I'm sorry. I'm happy to listen to Dr. Kim first, but I guess the next thing that I really was interested in is it's really the structure. Like if I have an issue that I can see, how much can I broaden it out to say this issue affects Group A and Group B and Group C. So we end up with a broad, I don't want to use the word shallow when we're talking about a dissertation, but a broader, wider spectrum thing. And how much should I really focus on? Well, if I can't talk about Group A, Group B, and Group C, should I really be talking about one group in depth? Is that really an issue? Like, because I feel like there could be a perception that if I identify an issue and then I cover 3 to 5 different groups that it affects differently, that's perceived as less detailed than if I pick one group and go. It's the broad versus deep argument, right? So I don't know if that's something that we could touch on or not, or if it's something that I bother my supervisor with at a later stage.
Yeah, I'd certainly say, I certainly say that's a discussion to be had with your supervisor. I wouldn't dismiss like broad right out of hand. There's a kind of depth that comes from breadth. Like when you have diversity in your sample or in the participants that are involved in your study, there's a kind of depth that comes from that because there's some comparative value. You know, like otherwise you're just describing in great detail like a single group of people or you know, a single participant. But when you have like, let's say 10 teachers, then they have different characteristics, and that actually adds depth to the discussion that you could have. Yeah, so I was gonna say I like to play around with Venn diagrams when I do this kind of thing. So you think about every circle as like as a name for something. So you're like, you know, Dr. Chu was talking about like the context of study, and that's one circle. And the context study could be maybe, you know, and within the circle, like in set theory, you know, there's like teachers, and then there's special education teachers, or there's, you know, which is a smaller circle within a bigger circle. And then you can identify the phenomenon of interest, like the kind of activity that they're doing, and that's another circle. And then if you identify like a concept or a theory that's related to that activity, that's another circle again. So you see here, like if let's say we're talking about like collaborative learning, which is a concept, you know, among special education teachers, which is one kind of context. Then, you know, in the context of a, you know, 2 preschools in Singapore, that's another context. So you have these 3 things, and the overlap is where the research is narrow enough to be an interesting study. And you can just keep playing with that and, you know, adding more circles or removing circles. And like generally, if you have too many circles, then it's too specific. If you have too few circles, then, you know, you're writing like a holy book, or, you know, or a textbook or something like that. You know, it's too like, you know, like learning. That's too much. That's too big a topic. Yeah. So I you know, if you've got a lot of ideas, you know, put them all on the board. Work with your supervisor on like removing, adding, and finding that right balance. Yeah. Yeah, that's all from me.
Ken, would you like to go next?
Hi, I just typed something earlier where Lumin was asking a question. My usual go-to advice is very simple. So I will tell them about this acronym called FINAL, because I believe a lot of majority of our students, particularly in the MA program, are kind of working full-time and then studying part-time. So to me, the most important thing is don't try to solve the problem of the world. Go to first what is doable within your context of your work. So this final thing, if you click on it, is in the chat part of it. The first thing is always about feasibility. So whenever I do this, especially with my NAA students, we talk about now make sure that you have easy access to data. You know, so you don't have to run around and try to do the impossible. And so once you have access to data, the kind of data that you have, I will tell them to share with me what actually do you do, what data can you get access to. Once we have a clear idea, then we will go in and so I usually share with them a graphic organizer. I want them to kind of tell me what exactly you're interested to do. So having seen that, then we will go and fine tune whatever that we have. And then after that, that's it. I said, don't waste your time. Just go on and work on your proposal. And then after that, we'll do the Form B and get ethics done. And then that can get you cracking, because the final is actually pretty straightforward, the FINER, what it stands for, and of course that has to be done in accordance and also with the support of the supervisor. It's not just what you're interested, because the second one, I, is about interesting to not only you, but also to your supervisor. If it's something that your supervisor is not interested or not good at or does not have the expertise, there's no point pursuing that as well. So please have a quick look at that. Has been kind of like my go-to advice. Been using it for the past 20 years with my PhD students, my master students, even my undergrad students, because to me, the most important thing is about being able to access data. Yeah, so that you don't have to go through layers of gatekeepers, and it will drain you out, and in the end, you don't arrive at anything. So yeah, that's my advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Sharimila also shared her insights on the meeting chat there. Now I can't find it anymore. Yeah, so you can read that. We can take one more question before we end today's session, if there is one more question from the floor.
Zaliza, do you have any questions? Or anyone from the MASIE?
Why Zaliza?
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but if you have no questions, it's okay. Just say no questions. It's fine.
I have too many questions, so
oh, great! Fire
have...
away! I knew I asked the right person.
So yeah, not yet, because too many. Yeah, I'll
okay.
watch this again and again to digest and to really understand everything, because I think it's not enough to just listen to to this one time. So to listen and watch this again, yeah, and go through the Moodle, the link that you sent. I think we'll need to spend some time understanding that first. I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good strategy, spending time to understand what you are about to begin. Yes. Let me see. What's FOMO? I've heard this before, but I cannot remember what it is anymore. And you guys can guess like where I am or how old I am now. I mean, this refers to what?
It stands for fear of missing out. Yeah, it's like, you're going for KFC and then you think, oh no, because I eating KFC, then I didn't get to eat McDonald's tonight, something like that.
Thank you.
Okay. What is that? You haven't? No questions. Okay. Anyway,
right.
Yeah. Sorry
so
for calling
with
up.
that, yeah, we wish all of you the very, very best. We are still here. If you have questions, reach out to us and we will answer your questions. To students who are going to begin your classes this Friday, we look forward to meeting you. I look forward to meeting and knowing the students will be in my class. And to students who will be doing you probably will be doing PBI if you would do. No, Danny will be, right? We're doing PBI. So all the best with you with your next module in Singapore in the coming weeks. So after this, we will download the video and send out an announcement to let you know how you can access the video and the slides. And yeah, that's all from us. Thank you so much, everyone, again for being here, and all the best. Yes, and enjoy. That's very important. Bye, everyone.